Oh, wow. Okay. Tell everybody. Oh, wow. Okay. So people actually wanted to be here as opposed to go have their own Fridays. Okay. Again, I wrote you can just watch this on two times speed, but if you guys want to do it this way, that's fine by me. Let me pull up the slides really quick. I'm just gonna read it straight off of there, honestly. I don't think anyone cares. Let's see. Sweet. Okay. Cool. So again, my goal is just to just knock this out super fast. So hopefully you're listening to this while you're eating or doing something more important. And then I'll send out a little attestation form. And yeah, we'll get this going. Because a lot of the stuff we can save for the real first meeting, which we will put so far back. Like I want everyone to get fully into their year, and then we'll do that a little bit later. Make sure everything's good. Okay. So, one, thank you guys for being here, watching this after the fact. Obviously, I cannot articulate how nice it's been to have this much massive support right off the bat. It has meant the world to me, not only to have it from SGA, but the many students who showed up at Club Day and filled out my form when I sent it out like last week. I mean, this has been fantastic. So, the idea is we're going to build something here that's meaningful, not only for our residency applications and CVs, even though that's definitely part of it, but something that truly stands the test of time, like a club that'll actually be here well after we're all gone and actually be, hopefully growing and continuing to impact students and, the patients that we'll all go on to serve. Yeah. And then obviously obligatory AT still quote right there. So really quickly, the moment we're in right now. So I only met with NORD like 7 days ago, but they didn't just say yes to us like they say to some other chapters. They fast tracked us. They are really, really excited. They want us to first be the first DO school in the nation to have a chapter. And they want to see how osteopathic uniqueness can kind of weave its way into the rare disorder space, because this is certainly a place that we're exceptionally well poised to be a part of. Again, I will save the much longer spiel until we have that official first meeting, whenever that inevitably is. But some quick stuff that you guys already probably know. 1 in 10 Americans live with a rare disorder, so we will all work with them. One of the big ones is NORD has handed out over $35 million in funding in the last 3 years, which a lot of that has gone to student researchers, or at least students who are like a part of huge, massive studies at places like UCSF and Stanford that are doing this research already. Again, they're not going to expect any of us to try and launch a clinical trial on cystic fibrosis, but hey, we might be able to be a part of one in some capacity as a student that's part of this chapter and has some appreciable knowledge of rare disorders and a connection to NORD. We're also going to immediately get access to over 300 physicians, professors, and professional academics that can all be speakers and be utilized throughout Touro in a lot of different ways. And we'll talk a little bit about like how they might even help us out with clinical integration, things like that. Other universities that I've talked about, like Brown, Stanford, and UC Davis, I think there's like 70 at this point, all have one of these. So it's good company. This will also help us connect to like schools, biotechs, firms, pharmaceutical companies, which I'll go into a little bit too, because that leaves a bad taste in some people's mouths sometimes. Oh, right here. So yeah, on a quick side note, in the rare disease space, if you guys have ever spent time in this space, pharmaceutical companies like Takeda and BioMarin are way different than, again, the normal perception we have of pharmaceutical companies. Like for me, for example, Takeda is the only company that makes my specific factor of blood protein disorder, right? So like I have a good relationship with them. They don't price gouge me. They don't really have the ability to do that. So it's a little bit different. But again, I can talk about that later. And lastly, again, we can put Touro on the map as an osteopathic leader in rare disease education, research, and advocacy. Plain and simple, no bullshit. Mhm. Yep. Okay. Um, this is a really great space to finally get some involvement as well, too, because let me point you towards the keyword of the day, which is current, which really serves as an analogous example of the growth opportunities that are available through this initiative, because this is as far as my brain has taken it so far, and it's only been 7 days. So I could not be happier to have a bunch of people much smarter than I walking alongside me in this, who can actually probably project better visions of growth than I ever possibly could. And again, the sky is the limit with something like this. Um, Yeah. So the couple pipelines I thought of so far, which I think some of these are established, or at least in some capacity, these look like and mirror some of the other student chapters. But again, I'm going to be absolutely open to all suggestions. One of them would be research and grants. Right, this would be like our direct pipeline into NORD funded projects. Again, many of them have student authorship and contributions. We are in the Bay Area, which I saw a stat the other day. It was something like the economy of the Bay Area, which is obviously largely pharmaceutical and biotech funded, and Silicon Valley has a larger economy than like 35 states or something like that. So we're immediately going to be able to tap into that and have a reputable channel to actually communicate with those individuals. And maybe we can do things like develop rapid research teams for case studies, innovative grants, report on clinical trials as they come out. It's always really important, and doctors rarely have time to kind of stay up with a lot of that stuff. So there's a lot of cool places that we could be involved there. Education and curriculum. This is the place that I've been able to get the furthest in just a couple short days here. Dr. Weiss, who many of you may or may not know, is the Assistant Dean of Curriculum Development, I think. And she already wants to start an integrated elective course this fall, like right away. And we might be able to do things that actually have it kind of run parallel alongside the actual osteopathic medical school curriculum. Like we could learn about cystic fibrosis when we're talking about respiratory units. When the first years get to hem-onc in spring, we could talk about bleeding disorders. Obviously, we're in neurology right now as OMS-IIs, and there is a ton of space there and room for that. I've also secured a very distinct pathway through Dr. Sengupta to actually involve anything NORD can help us with for clinical integration, which you OMS-Is have to deal with a ton of clinical integration. I forget how many. The second years, I think we only have 4, and they're all this semester. But this is an actual formal channel to get this involved in the curriculum, not just the elective course, which is fantastic, but actually truly involved in some capacity in the formal educational process of our medical school. And it is important to point out that educational and curriculum pathways is kind of really what NORD's after. I mean, they love research, they love patient advocacy and stuff like that, but for them, their goal is to try and increase exposure to rare disorders at the most opportune time for future physicians, which is medical school. So that's a huge thing they're into as well, too. Um, Clinical and OMM, this one I definitely need a lot more help on, but I think this is a fantastic place. I mean, we can develop rare disease specific OMM applications and case-based learning in class. I'll be honest, I haven't talked to too many OMM faculty quite yet for no particular reason. But there's a lot of really good opportunities there for us to, combine traditional management strategies in allopathic medicine with osteopathic innovation for rare disorders. I even remember sometime in OMS-I, I want to say the fall, which is why it's slipping my memory, we watched a video of Dr. Nuno interacting with an individual who had osteogenic imperfecta. And that's a perfect example of a place where osteopathic manual manipulation and treatment can play a massive role. And for those of you guys who already know, Dr. Nuno loves studying this kind of stuff. So he is one person to involve, surely, but I have not approached him quite yet. Um, the last 3 that I have thought of so far, and again, some of these could split out, be their own things, or again, other options, is advocacy and events. I mean, that's kind of NORD's bread and butter. Already talked to Dr. Weiss about CME credited alumni grand rounds, which would not only attract, Touro alumni to show up and get some continuing medical education, but also connect us with Touro alumni, which is something that a lot of medical schools struggle with. We're not unique in that fact, but to be able to connect to people who went to the same school as you would be a huge benefit. Do things like have rare disease events, rare disease day events, and there are a lot of them because there's a lot of rare diseases. Patient panels and legislative advocacy. That's definitely a huge one. We can also leverage NORD's network for national policy engagement. I mean, they're a huge, huge titan in that space. They represent over 300 patient advocacy groups. So again, for those of you guys who are interested in legislation and advocacy and public health in any capacity, I mean, this is definitely one of the places we can do a lot of good work. A quick side note on that, the picture on the right is a great example of how this track could go. So I personally fought alongside NORD for 3 straight years up in Sacramento, getting any meeting we could get with any perceived legislator of importance to eventually get the California Rare Diseases Advisory Council established, which is a huge step forward in the progressive arc of healthcare. Again, I won't detail that too far, but you can kind of assume what that council would do. And I'm not going to bore you with the details, but it's an advisory board that we will all eventually listen to the recommendations of, and many of us might eventually serve on if it's something you're truly interested in. And I want to say the picture I have up there it's way more states than that at this point. I mean, it's grown like wildfire. I think we're only missing a few states. We're at like 40 or something. It's currently a sunset bill in California too, so we'll all get the opportunity to support it in, I think, 2026 for it to become like a perpetual part of California legislation. Operations and partnerships, so we can build alliances with biotech firms, advocacy organizations, cross-campus partnerships. I mean, there's a million different directions that could go. I didn't want to put an exhaustive list there because it would really be a long list. This is also probably the people that we could use to help deal with the NORD speaker directory and kind of help distribute that throughout Touro because it's not like we're going to hoard that to ourselves. Clinical integration, speaking, I don't know, guest lectures, a ton of things there. Immediately having access to a lot of people who know these spaces, are willing to come speak, probably benefit them in their own careers and trajectories to come speak at other medical schools in some capacity. So it becomes very mutually beneficial for these people. We could probably get some structured mentorship pipelines for some of these students to some of these national experts. And again, some of these large scale active research opportunities where students could easily land ongoing roles in perpetuity. As we know, Touro students that do really well in certain clinical rotations can open up doors for students that come after them. So it just takes a couple students getting involved in a giant study at UCSF on some rare disorder and really kicking ass and taking names for UCSF to say, hey, can you give us a motivated student or two every year to continue working on this? And we absolutely could. Um, Lastly, innovations and wildcards. So yeah, I am open to anything. Open to moonshots. I don't know. You want to build an application for patient tracking? I even heard of one that's being built in Marin for women with von Willebrand's disease, and it helps them communicate with their doctors because doctors are usually not very privy to von Willebrand's disease and heavy menstrual bleeding, and they usually dismiss those symptoms. And the average diagnostic time delay for a woman with von Willebrand's is 14 to 16 years, and there's a lot of quality of life issues that come in that time period. So a lot of cool options there. I don't know, maybe you want to go over to the community or the clinical integration unit and see if we can get some sort of simulation-based rare disease case for students to participate in, either electively or as part of the curriculum. I don't know, something like that would work. Working with rural and out and underserved communities is also something huge. Again, rare disorders are terrible in many ways, but it's really nice when you're here and you have UCSF right next door or someone who is knowledgeable in some capacity. But people with rare disorders in underserved or rural areas often suffer a lot more issues because of their lack of access. So many things we can do in that space. So overall, pitch it, prototype it, and I'm happy to put my full force behind it and see what we can manage to do. Lastly, wow, I got that done quick. Perfect. All I need to do, you watch this recording. For those of you guys who are already here, fantastic. I'll put this on YouTube or something, and I'll send it out with a little attestation form just so I know that you watched the thing. And then, you're officially a charter member. I'm going to put your name on the fact that you were here, that you started this with me, and that we all supported this. And then again, maybe in 3 to 5 weeks or something, we will figure out an actual first meeting. And we can expand the board aggressively. I put that into the Constitution and the bylaws. I believe the Stanford chapter has 15 people on it. So, I mean, I don't necessarily have any issue with doing that also, as long as we can set good priorities and have at least some rationale for having that many people. Which leads me to the point that obviously I can't promise everybody who participates in this a board seat, but I desperately want to honor all of your time and your pledge personally, because you guys all got involved so early, and this wouldn't be going as fast as it would otherwise. So I want to be able to do things for everybody, regardless of board seat, that general clubs either try to do or can't always act on. What that looks like, I don't fully know, but I'd love to be able to offer you opportunities to the same level as board members. Promising positions in the future is probably an option for maybe OMS-Is who we really can't be stressing out too much while they're just trying to get through FOM. But again, you're here as a charter member, so you surely get first consideration as some sort of board member. And lastly, again, this is not just another student organization. I do not want this to just fade into the background and just do the minimum 4 speaker events per year that NORD requires of us. I would love to actually be at the center of the national conversation of rare disorders, shape how rare diseases are taught in medical education, and to create, research and clinical opportunities that don't exist anywhere else in the osteopathic world. So I thank you for your time, and let's make history. That's a really good tagline, so it's kind of stupid for me to keep going after that. But this literally got emailed to me today, so I want to go over this. Nord literally emailed me like, I don't know, like a couple hours ago with up to $250,000 in innovative studies in rare disorders. So again, I mean, some of these probably don't interest us. They're probably super, super specific. But here's, where the rubber meets the road. There's literally five of these, all of which for, almost at least $25,000 each. I'm assuming you don't need to be at the top of the list for this. You could probably be a part of a research study that's doing it. Maybe someone else in the Bay Area is already piloting one of these and you can hop on. I don't know. There's a lot of really, really good channels, but they send things out like this all the time. So I'm not making it up when I say that they hand out all this funding and they want students to kind of be at the center of it. So with that being said, that's all I have. I got it done in 15 minutes, which was the hope. But since you guys are here, I mean, if you have any questions or anything, I mean, please let me know. We're here. No worries if not. Oh shit, how do I even go back to the thing? Well, don't put anything in chat because there's no way I can manage that. There we go. Oh, cool.
Hey Jack, it's Arnold. Sorry. Also, thanks for just getting it set up. I was just wondering, you kind of talked about timeline a little bit also, but realistically, this being sort of a new thing happening on campus, and I guess for all of us here and for whoever's listening to the recording, how much of a commitment do you think is it going to take realistically, given all of our responsibilities and at least for us second years, having boards on the horizon in a
Yeah.
bit? So like, can you tell us? In a bit more detail what we can expect.
100%. That's a good question. So low time commitment, 100, like low time commitment. I tried to start this 8 months ago as an OMS-I so that we wouldn't run into this problem quite as much. But that's kind of my plan is to hold monthly meetings that are not really integrally necessary. Again, probably just a recording or something that are quick and simple, just to be able to say that we're having those and that those are formally occurring. But outside of that, I mean, the idea would be to put you in a role that you're comfortable with, that you enjoy, that you get a lot out of individually, that serves your specific residency or career applications, and let you run with that. If you're doing research and advocacy, I mean, I would expect that you help other students in the club and in Touro in general at least be aware and privy to the opportunities that you can muster up through this, but that you don't necessarily spend your time doling those out and, being personally responsible for attaching people to those. If you find an amazing thing that works for you and you want to roll with it, like spend your time in this club doing something that benefits you and by proxy and vicariously benefits Touro students and other people. So relatively low time commitment. Nobody's going to be sending in notes to me or having to attend a bunch of meetings or anything like that is totally not the idea. It's pick a role that serves you anyway personally, and just by doing so and doing your job in a good way, you'll be benefiting Toro and the club secondhand. So yeah, good question though.
Awesome, thanks. Also, just curious, I know you talked about there being a higher priority for like clinical integration, or sorry, medical education integration with NORD. And so I know you said or they're planning an elective. How do you see that also being integrated in like the regular curriculum? I know you said clinical integration, for example, but like do you think Lord would be giving us specific like lectures when we have like relative material in the curriculum, or how does that integration work?
Well, one, yeah, I should delineate those like slightly better. So elective course is they'd be stoked on an elective course, and that's totally the place to start anyway. Like I don't know if any of you guys took Dr. Mukherjee's science-based reproductive healthcare class. I took that, and that was just massively good supplementary information, totally outside the purview of what we were doing in the OMS-I curriculum. So just to exist in that space would be fantastic. Uh, it's really that if it could happen alongside timing wise, the actual OMS curriculum, that'd be great. But like for example, oh my God, who taught us cystic fibrosis? I forget which professor taught us cystic fibrosis because their sister had it. So there would be no reason for NORD to intervene on that. That's already perfect. And in terms of like formal integration into the curriculum, I mean, that's a ridiculous thought, unfortunately, to like fully get in there outside of clinical integration. Like we all know how much we already have to do to prepare for boards, how much they have to teach us, how many lectures. So the idea is never to like fully integrate into the medical school curriculum, just to have hopefully a kick-ass elective course that people want to take, and again show some sort of like competency to some of these organizations that we hope to approach. And then in terms of as far as formal curriculum integration goes, it just clinical integration. That's it. Just those 2 hour clinical integration meetings led by Dr. Sengupta. Anything beyond that would be just way too much of a burden to put on Touro or us for that matter. Those two things would be amazing in NORD's eyes by themselves, because that's already so much more than every other medical school gets in terms of any exposure to rare disorders.
Okay, gee, that's perfect. I thought that was going to be like the plan, so thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, yeah, way more reasonable. Again, I want to speak ambitiously, but also be grounded in reality, right? Like that would be insane to actually try and put more on our plates. Make any sense? But otherwise, again, I appreciate y'all for being here. You don't got to watch this on recording, and again, I'll figure out how to put it on YouTube and send it out in an email later tonight. But again, I appreciate you guys all for being here. I'm really looking forward to this. It's moved great, and seriously, I cannot thank you guys enough. Um, have a good Friday for those of us in second year. Happy studying, and I'll talk to you guys in probably a good while. I'm gonna send out the email, but we can all just chill now. You're a charter member, and we'll figure out the details later once we're all official and legit. All right. Thank you guys very much. Again, have a nice weekend.
Thanks,
Yep. Take care.
Thanks.